Have you hired a creative, whether it's a videographer, photographer, editor, graphic designer, website maker, and maybe your vision isn't coming out in the exact way you wanted to? In this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to communicate with a creative to get your desired outcome. So let's get into it. So the first thing you should know when you hire a creative person, I mean, we're all creative, but a creative professional, depending on what level they're at, whether they're professional and they've been doing it a long time, or someone who's just getting into it, which is typically cheaper and more accessible, they're going to have different reactions. And the reason behind this is because when you give criticism or feedback to a creative person, or just like a creative who is working with you, you have to understand that all of this videography, photography, content, graphic design has been commoditized, but it's a form of art. And it's a form of art that these individuals are doing for you. You're like commissioning them for an art piece. And so in the beginning, or like maybe videographers or photographers, anyone in the creative film who hasn't been doing it for a long time, when they receive criticism, and maybe even professionals that have been doing it for a long time, when they receive criticism for their art, it comes from your heart. So when you're making videos, you're doing photography, you're doing a graphic design, it's a piece of art and it's coming deep from in our hearts, right? We're digging deep to make this piece of art, and when we present it to whoever has commissioned us, then we're like bearing our soul. Our heart is open to criticism or feedback. And so if you don't communicate appropriately, it could stimulate a response that might not be favorable. It's like if you bared your heart or your soul to, a boy or a girl that you like, and you wrote like this really, love poem, and then they like crumbled it up and it was like, this is terrible, you're ugly. That's like kind of how it feels like when, as a creative, and you present a project and someone just like tears it down. So it's not fun when you're getting feedback or criticism after you put your heart and soul into a project. So I've been that person, right? I've been the creative who has gotten turded on. I've been that, and I've also been the person on the other end giving feedback. In the beginning, I was just a videographer, a photographer, so I was the one putting my heart and soul and sweat into these projects and then turning them into clients to get that direct feedback. As the organization grew, now I have a suite of creatives in which now when the client has feedback, they give it to me, and then I'm able to kind of lubricate that message and get it to the team to be able to get the desired outcome back. And so what I've learned in these conversations is there's three things before you give your criticism that you should consider. One, is it something that's subjective? Is it something that like doesn't really matter? Like, is it just a personal preference? Is it worth like the energy that it's going to take to change that? Because from the consumer, like as somebody making content for you, it takes a lot to go into the project, change things around, re-render it, re-export it. It takes a lot of energy. So is it something that's like subjective, like it doesn't really matter? Maybe it's just a personal preference, and maybe it's not worth the friction of going through the changes. So is the revision, like, is it subjective? Like, is it something that it's just kind of a personal preference? Number two, is it something that's coming out of insecurity? Is it something, I've seen people that have like totally just tore down projects. Their projects never see the light of day because they were so insecure about themselves. And all all insecurity in front of a camera stems from the fear of criticism. I have a really cool training on the fear of criticism on this channel. So if you want to go through and kind of like get a deeper understanding about that. But is it something that is stemming out of insecurity where maybe it's not really anything that could be changed, but maybe just because you're insecure, maybe it's clouding the judgment. And then number 3, is it something that's absolutely needs to be changed? Like for videography, is the camera out of focus? Is it maybe showing like somebody else talking that isn't the person that was talking? Like, is it something that's like absolutely needs to be changed? So those are 3 things that you should consider before going to your creative and kind of offering the criticism or wanting changes. Now, so the first thing after you've gone through that is look for what's right. And it's always better to schedule a call and talk with the creative over the phone. It's a lot easier to kind of massage your message and your criticism through like a conversation opposed to text. A lot could be lost through text. So I would recommend if you want things changed, start off like this. Hey, I love the project. When can we schedule a call to kind of go over some things on the project, regarding the project? And look for what's right. So always look for what's right in the project before you tear it down. So now let's say you wanted something changed in the video, right? When you get on that call with the creative, say, hey, I love this. I love the color grading. I love the way these cuts were done. I love this and that. Just give feedback, right? Make them feel good about their project. Remember, this is an art project that they bared their soul on. So feel good about the project, things that you do like, and then insert your things that you'd like changed. So I like this. I like that. Maybe in this angle, is there a possible way to change this or, impact that? And ask questions. So approach it as a question asking, because a lot of times in video specifically, the videographer, the editor might have edited the footage or the angle in a certain manner because maybe something was like they didn't get the right angle, maybe like the footage was mixed up, or maybe you looked silly, and so they pieced it together in which they thought would be the best. So maybe inquire, ask questions about that to see if there is something that could have been lost in translation and why they did that particular thing in that way or that manner. So once you gathered enough of the information, then you request like, okay, cool. I think maybe it would be cooler if we did it in this way. What do you think, right? And then ask for the revision. So cool. Well, can we do it that way just to see what it looks like? And if I was wrong, then we could go back to the drawing board. So offer positive reinforcement. So what you love about the project. 2, ask questions about why, like the part that you're not sure about, why it looks that way or why they did that in that particular method. And then 3, ask if they could change it in the manner in which you want it to be done. And so once you do those 3 things, one, the videographer, the photographer, the website designer, the graphic designer is going to feel a lot better going into that revision, because what could happen if you don't do these things is, let's say you do tear them down, like this is terrible, it looks like trash, give me another version or something, right? Now they're going to have kind of resentment because you just like stomped all over their heart, and then they might give you an attitude, they might give you friction, they might try to charge you more money, they might try to do a lot of things that might not be conducive into getting your desired outcome. So by communicating in this manner, it allows the creative to feel good about the changes that need to be done, and then they could go in knowing that you guys are collaborating. So this creating content, right, or any type of graphic design, photography, anything in that realm, it's a form of art and it's a collaboration. It needs to be like a back and forth, and it's almost like you're painting and retouching and revising until you get to the final product. So it should never be like a one way this is done. unless they just nail it, right? Like if a good way to avoid revisions like altogether is to just be super communicative on the front end before you do the project. Make sure you cover all your bases. And even then, even so, if you did cover all your bases, excuse me, the creative is, they have their own lens and their own style, and they might add their own ways of doing things. So they might still add their own sauce to it, and that's okay. So it's all about being collaborative, working back and forth, and knowing that it's all constructive and it's a positive interaction. And if you create that positive interaction, you'll be able to, one, retain a creative team a lot longer, work with any creative team really, and just you'll be able to keep propelling your content, your vision, and your mission a lot smoother with a creative team if you communicate in these manners. So drop a comment with your biggest takeaways and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Peace!